Never underestimate, say. Never underestimate, can you say it? Can you say the word? Say the word, say the word. Never underestimate the power. Oh well, hi, hello and welcome. It's yet another manic Monday. I just woke up about like half an hour ago, so you know what that means. We dive into some true detective tea. Last week I commented on my own uni true crime magazine, so you know I'm qualified. Watch that video, I'll drop it down in the description box below. But today I'm gonna comment on 3 articles in this bit. 2 of them mostly on the writing, and then one we are really gonna dive into the case, because what a gem, you cannot unread this, and if I can't unread this, I need to tell the story, I need to tell the tale. As it's a passion of mine to go online and search for these kind of magazines, I try to look for like some antique stuff, some cases that I would most definitely not know. As far as I think, this one is still in production, but this edition is from October 1990. You see, their editor's letter, this is how it's done. This is what I should have learned from like reading other people's magazine. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Yeah, this is the style. This is why I'm telling you, I need to share this, because when I have read this, I was like, I cannot unread this. I need to share this writing. What is this, some Shakespearean era? This first story, if anything, should really teach you not to trust anybody and to just question everybody and like, what are they thinking? If they're suddenly doing something completely out of the ordinary, question them. Cool. First story, let's go. The Old Kent Road story that you see here is the one of the hotel porter Bruce Santos, who is 23 and who is just described as the unlikely Casanova, because look at what he looks like. And of Miss Tracy Illman, who he now, you know, was courting, then got married to, and now he has a 5-month-old son. But our Santos man was not satisfied with the life he was having now, so he was planning all these different witty things about how to murder her. So, Santos, what did he think of? Look at this paragraph, please. A list of various methods of murder was compiled, and it included such choice items as putting a clothes peg on the victim's nose and forcing a mint into her wine pipe with a chopstick so she would choke. What is this sadistic thing? Somebody test this guy. This guy is clearly a freaking sadist. Other methods, no, because this is not enough. Other methods included setting fire to her bed, suffocating her with a plastic bag, and tampering with the wiring so that she would be electrocuted when she turned on the TV. What is this? Just imagine, you live with somebody, and this is what they plan. They're like, we're just buying pegs for like hanging clothes. You're like, we never had pegs. We never used pegs to hang clothes. It's like, oh, I'm just like fiddling with the wiring. You have never done that before. What are you doing? Like, lift your gaze from your phone and just pay attention to what everybody's doing, because they might be plotting your murder. Okay, too extreme, but yeah, you can never be too safe. What was the motive? Well, as a man in disgruntled man, he has found a lover. So now he's like, you know what, I'm gonna kill you in front of my own son, our own son, and a lover. Everybody in this magazine has made some seriously bad decisions, but Tracy was feisty. This is what you always need to try and leave some DNA or something. She left an imprint, you know the wedding mat? She punched him with that thing into the forehead. So it left kind of like an imprint which was in the shape of the letter E. So the police took that imprint, and that was quite literally when they had him. So they find him guilty, okay? But this line is just, everybody's like, no, okay, so what about the mistress, right? Is she gonna get convicted? So in mitigation, this person said, the lovemaking session in London hotels with Santos who turned her head. Please, look at the guy's face. Wait. The lover only got 4 years. I don't know what to tell you, except that the ending to this is again just brilliant. How many people are there, out there in the night, lying in the bed or sitting at the kitchen table, drawing up lists of possible methods of murder? Truly, whenever I hear about one of these stories, I'm like, just like keeping an eye on my husband, yeah? And how is it possible that a naive and unworldly Scots girl from a good family could so easily be persuaded to indulge in such a macabre mind games? The passions of the human heart remain unfathomable. Wow, what a strong ending. You know what? After researching motive and like different cases for the podcast for about, what is it, almost 9 months now. Jesus. Yeah, listen to the pod, it's in the description box. I started it in the first place is exactly because of that. It's like, how can somebody have a seemingly completely normal life and then just snap? And it's usually because you know how with serial killers and like people who are deeply disturbed, like their childhoods are shit, and then it's like all of that trigger after trigger and it leads them to commit something now. I feel with like people like you and me, they're always triggers, but they're just more recent and accumulated, and because we aren't used to all of that, right? We aren't used to having like the shittiest childhood of them all. We aren't used to having like trigger after trigger, like bad things happening to us while we are very like impressionable as kids. Then what happens is once that something accumulates, that's when a person just snaps. That's just me again, like, you know, I haven't like found research on this. It's just from my armchair detective bullshit for the past 9 months. So yeah, second story. The second story, you know, as I mentioned, like the armchair detective bit and like the podcast, I usually think like, well, you know, that saying like there's no such thing as a perfect crime. I'm like, that is true, but there's a lot of people that just don't get caught. There's a lot of unsolved mysteries out there. But this one proves that thing, yeah, there is no such thing as crime, because you leave evidence. Or you all are watching this and you know, like if you are going to be a potential victim, you leave evidence. You make sure that that person is found. Under your fingernail, like everything. Wherever you can leave your DNA, leave it. Fuck them up. So this is a story when Gillian Valley has been found in the Boston area in a lake. And this nightclub bouncer, Paul Harrison, has been convicted of a murder. Now how did they connect this? Well, first of all, like as he dragged the body to the woods, there were footprints. Then, genius, so he's like, there are footprints there, right? So he takes his own sneakers, puts them in the bag, and then disposes them in like the other reservoir. Like, they will never connect this to me, it's water, they will never find. They actually managed to even take fingerprints, but also they managed to match the sneakers to the footprint, and then the sneakers were his. People. Not just that, but Gillian had under her fingerprints, you see, this is why I keep them long, this is why you need to stop biting your nails. I was biting my nails as a child constantly, and then I stopped. I was like, this is why true crime makes you stop biting your fingernails. God, too aggressive. So the red fibers under her fingernails matched the bed headboard in Harrison's house. So, you know, she was digging into it as he was doing whatever he was doing once she was at his house. So basically the story was, he was a bouncer, he in a club arranged to meet and have a date with Gillian, but then he stood her up because of her reputation. So, you know, he was chatting with other people who was like, yeah, her reputation precedes her, I don't want to actually date her. Cool, now I have to kill her. And then it's speculated he killed her as she was actually going home after being stood up. But at the trial, he said, no, okay, disclaimer, nobody in the right mind, not even your sibling, will say this, okay? Listen to me. He said she was like his sister. Now, have you ever heard your own brother? Have you ever heard anybody say that? If you have, question that person. Question why they're saying that. Like, why would you say she's like my sister? She's not. She's a friend. Like, people usually say that to get out of like not dating you or like not having anything serious with you. This guy kept repeating it at the court, and you're like, you barely know her though. This is not even that kind of situation. No normal person says this. So yeah, so he kept repeating, she was nice, she was beautiful, she was like a sister to me. Bullshit. Cool, he got jailed for life, but this conclusion, yet again, true crime detective wins. How could Harrison have hoped to lie way past those 7 red fibers? This is a case which underlines the value and the vital importance of the work of the forensic scientists. When they get it right, as they did in this case, there can be no doubt at all about the guilt of the suspect. Yes. Okay, the first story is a doozy. Also, okay, now listen, I need to show you this. So there's a spread, then there's another spread. Oh, I reveal this beauty, so sorry about that. Yeah, so there's 2 spreads, right? This whole thing could have been like a 1 line, like it could have been like 2 paragraphs, but no, this is the beauty of the writing of the true crime detective. The first story summarizes all of both of the ones I spoke about, but also really tells you you should never underestimate a single person, because what they're thinking, you can't read their thoughts, you don't know what they're thinking. Like, never underestimate, never underestimate, say, never underestimate, can you say it? Can you say the word? Say the word, say the word. Never underestimate the power of thought. Okay, first story. To summarize, because this is gonna get complex, right? So a male and a female. Here, his name is Andre Bodmer. He had a wife, right? Cool. Then he decided to cheat. Then, with that lover, he decided to deploy a plot to kill his wife. But that plot, we're gonna come to it later. Cool. So they kill his wife, right? And then the children are like, oh, we can't actually just continue with life. This one says, cool, let's commit suicide. So this whole beginning, if you don't understand the rest of the story, you don't understand the beginning, but it's there. So let me read out of each line of the paragraph. This beginning starts as he is lying, and apparently, you know, just after trying to commit suicide with his lover and his thoughts, and him reflecting on his life. That was their choice, okay? They chose it. As Andre Bodmer lay dying in the forest of Bunderland, his thoughts must have turned back to him, to the time nearly 18 years earlier, when he had found paradise there. Much too young, what had it been with him and Isabella? A terrible urge saturated the love, a compulsion which swept away every time before it, so that in the end they ran away to live and make love. In the Bunderland, to sleep under the stars, wound only in each other's bodies, to die on wild berries. And the potatoes they stole from the farmer's gardens. This story is true love. If you steal potatoes from the farmer's gardens, true love. That love even overcame that incredulous parents' opposition. You're like, what can go wrong? Then second on the paragraph. Marriage did not quite appease the parental approval. Oh, they knew you were a cunt that's gonna fucking kill their wife, right? Because they already had 2 children. Her father said let them stew in their own juice. Different. Then it goes into where they lived, then it goes into where they moved, then it says it was a hard time, desperate time, then it's a fairy tale. Then the solution was obvious. Okay, this is when it gets weird. They're broke now, right? So they lived through this paradise, the 2 of them married, they lived there happily ever after, but now they're broke. She has the kids, they need to support the family. So he starts pimping her. Did that seem like a logical conclusion to you? Neither to me, but he starts pimping her and she just like takes it as a job, and it doesn't apparently immediately affect their thing, yeah? So she earns the money for the family, he's still broke, he's still looking for a job. Is he a butcher or something? Yeah, he was looking for a butcher job, cool. We're still on this page somehow, it's a mess. Now she gets pregnant again, so it says obviously this condition represented an extended suspension of business activities. Cool, he finally found his butcher job though while she was pregnant, right? Then she goes back to pimping, but now he's thinking like, I am not having any side work, like I'm not having any side business, why don't I get myself a lover? She's doing it to support the family. Idiot, also you are pimping her. So, Andre goes to Dusseldorf, right? And on this trip he like gives a ride to this woman Doris. The description of Doris. Doris was brunette and as lush and juicy as a ripe plum. I love when people compare women to fruits. I love it. It's totally my thing. Support it. So after months, he's like, hey Doris, you wanna kill my wife to be able to continue this? And she's like, sure, yeah, of course. Okay, again, this paragraph, this is not a funny story, it's the writing takes the kick out of it. And the way that Doris was convinced, the way that she justified it in her head. Doris, a jealous, possessive woman, endured agonies every night when Andre went home to his wife, although he swore on his mother's pious head that he had not laid a head on Isabella for years. Why are you saying on your mother's head? It's always... When they lie, they always say like, I'm gonna swear on my child's head. You're like, please don't, sir. Stay away from the children. Okay, so now this whole thing is their dialogue. It's like, okay, this is how they communicate. She says, I'll do it. She buys a gun. Then she says, I'll need a little target practice. Then he's like, I don't think you are holding on in your hands. Why is this here? Why is this here? But then she's like, but you'll teach me, won't you? And he's like, well, actually, I have like military background, American, I can't use knives. So he's like, okay, second method of killing. We can strangle her. Then Andre is like, well, that's not so simple. We're connected. I'm always going to be a first suspect. Okay, now you're like, he's smart. He's going to back out of it. No, there's a whole other spread. He doesn't back out. Turning page. Now he sells this wife a story. Oh god, this is so painful. This is so insane. Okay, so he sells the wife a story. He entered them into a contest of the game called Game of Courage. So if they won, you know, their lives could change because they can win so much money. All they need to do is, she needs to accompany him to like the isolated spot in the forest. He is gonna tie her up and leave her there. And after a short time, people are gonna come find her and release her, and then they're gonna win the money. It's a game of courage, but he doesn't play. But he tells her, don't you worry, I shall be near. I shall come and save her if, you know, a bear or, you know, a murderer comes along. But, and then I was like thinking, why would you accept this? But then you have to think, she was with him since she was 14, and then obviously she brought kids to him, so she was like, okay, cool, like, you know, we need the money, let's do this. This is the part in their planning when Doris comes to the conclusion that it's not just a criminal. The only way they can take the suspicion of the husband to begin with is if it was a sex criminal. And what does a sex criminal leave on the scene? That kind of evidence, yes. Sperm. Yeah. So she asks him for a blood group, and he somehow knows his blood group. Do you know your blood group? No, because you're not out there committing crime. AB. He's like, why? Well, she has heard somewhere, because she's up to no good, so she knows shit like this, that a man's blood group is different than his sperm. So he's like, okay, if I just find a blood group that's not AB, you're in the safe. And he's like, oh, this might be perfect. And he's like, okay, but now he's probably thinking, where are you gonna find the sperm? She has the answer. She's like, that is my business. Okay, this guy is just a pimp. Where do you think she's gonna find the sperm? There's this, the rest of this page is Doris finding the sperm. So what she does, she like hitchhikes different men, and then she enters one man's car, and she's kind of like, hey, what's your blood group? And he's like, yeah, can you get the hell out? What are you doing? But the other man just accepts. He's like, yep, you know. And then they describe this. I have no idea what she has done. Did she give him a blowjob? Did she give him a handjob? Did anything happen? Nope, I don't know what she has done. But she puts it in the condom, and then she keeps that sperm in her freezer. This is why people like this are dangerous. Imagine you live with somebody, they open a freezer, there's thing of sperm. Why I'm saying I'm not sure what she has done. I think it's a hand job, but like, listen to this line. Then Doris produced a condom, applied it to the appropriate part of his anatomy, okay, we get that part, and then proceeded to such a deft laying on of hands that he was undone in a minute. So, I think hands are involved, right? Okay, cool, over, great. In the meantime, Andre goes and ties his wife for 30 years to the tree. He bounds, gags her, and blinds her. Blindfolded her, and well, then Doris comes out and she strangles his wife with a scarf. So for all the wife knew, it would have been Andre strangling her. Then what she does, she disposes of the condom with the sperm on the right part of the wife's body, right? This plan is so sick. Cool, Andre goes home, and the next day he calls the police. So he's like, hey, you know, last night me and my wife argued. Wrong way, wrong alibi, first of all. But yeah, me and my wife argued, then like, she went dancing, I wasn't concerned when she came back again. But this morning I kind of got concerned, so I thought I should call the police. They start looking into it, they soon find the body, and then once the body is examined, they realize it's a completely different blood group, right? So they're like, okay, cool, you're still a suspect, but we can kind of discard you for now. Discard you because of this blood group, we kind of cleared you. They were smart enough, and this is why these two individuals in particular are so scary, because they were smart enough not to like run into each other's arms, not to, you know, like be too close after that, which is the usual mistake that cunts like this make. So they stay away from each other. The police is looking into it, they have kind of discarded the husband, but they have found the whole scene really weird. That's exactly that, like as smart as you can be in certain things, that you never know what the actual detective looks for. or like you can just forget about the other things. So because he heavily focused on this suspect thing, he forgot that it just looks like his wife went voluntarily to the forest, like she was tied voluntarily. So what was that all about? It must have been somebody that she knew. Also, on that sperm bit, like she wasn't clamping her legs over her, you know, like it didn't seem like she was putting that much of a fight. So why was the sperm, well, they didn't know that at that point it was from the condom, but why was it just like at the entrance, right? Why wasn't it like in her, on her, somewhere else? So they immediately focused on that. Are you behind the door?
Yes.
Okay. Like a creep. Like a creep. Pose for the camera then. You pose for it. You pose for it. Come on. Prom picture. Come on. Shh. So they focused on this random guy because they were like, well, it must be premature ejaculation then, right? Well, they focused on this guy, they actually even imprisoned him, but they're like, he never even, like, the type of his crimes that he was doing, he would never even, like, ejaculate, he would never even come to the culmination. Like, so how did he suddenly do it, and why was it premature? It just didn't fit the pattern. While they're looking into all of this, these two fucking turds, Andre and Doris, try to commit suicide because, and guess what, I can vouch for you, again as an armchair detective, there is something in this. Once the victim is killed and it's left unsolved, or somebody is wrongfully convicted, trust me, that victim is haunting you from the grave. You thought you were gonna get rid of your wife, yeah? No, she's fucking haunting you. And this is exactly what they have said. They just couldn't live with like what they have done, so they have tried to commit suicide. But they were saved. Even after interrogating, none of them confessed. And they have taken his blood, and again, it wasn't the same blood. He might have actually gotten away with this if it wasn't for his guilt. So after a couple of years, they actually, the guy that gave the sperm actually came forward and was like, yeah, this was a weird situation. But by that point, both of them had confessed and have been in prison. And they got about 20 years each. But just look at his face. Please, look at his moustache. This could have only happened. When was this crime? 80s, right? Don't check on that. Yeah, 85. Yeah, this could have only happened 85. How'd you find? This guy beats me with my eyebrows, okay? Maja, 14 years old, I had a unibrow. I mean, you're failing, so it doesn't connect. Sorry. It's as bushy as mine was, though. It's bad, but yeah, that stash, like when you see it, don't you wanna snog? Boy, well, this was something. Don't forget to leave a like if you like this type of thing, and then I can do some more on the True Detective next time, and then get some more magazines and, you know, tell you some crimes that otherwise you would have never known about, because podcasts don't cover it, Unsolved Mysteries doesn't cover it. It's just written in such a great lingo in this great magazine. But that's it from me today, so leave a like and subscribe if you like this type of content and you want it in your feed. And until then, I have nothing else to tell you, nothing else to say, so this is a goodbye. Bye!